Hi guys, it's Shelly from the Lemonade Store, and we are going to go over some of the new watercolor sheets that I have in my Etsy shop. And these are actually the abbreviated version of the ones that you could buy if you want to get like the watercolor worksheets in my Etsy store have like a whole page of each letter. So it's like 30 plus pages of drills, and then one whole letter would be A, and then this is going to be the ones that I'm going to upload over to at my Patreon. So if you are a Patreon at the $5 or higher tier, these are going to be available to you, just like some of my other classes. You guys get to have that access for free because you're awesome. So thank you guys over there. And I just wanted to go through and give you some of the things that I find useful when I'm practicing my watercolor lettering. So when I made these worksheets, I was using a number 4 round Grumbacher Golden Edge, and this is probably one of my favorite brushes for lettering. I've got some Princeton ones that I really like. You can use water brush pens, but I seem to always come back to this one. It's one of my faves. And then I have a couple of different paints to kind of show you guys that we're going to practice with today. We have some of these eco lines. This is the actual older model of it. Now the top is like a dropper bottle, so you would just drop it and you can put it in like a well or something like that, or like a palette you could use. And then I also have these water I think they're called Mission Gold paints, and these I just got, so I just dabbed a little bit in there, and we will just use both, so you can just kind of see how I utilize those tube paints and the liquid paints. So you also need to have paper towel and some clean water, and then I'm going to show you, you can do this a couple different ways. So we're going to start out with let's talk about the drills, and I'm going to say like how we can do this with just using paper. So this is copy paper. This is the heavier weight copy paper. I believe it's the 32 pound. I will make sure I linked below all the different supplies that I use so that you can kind of see what I got going on. And these are just the drills. So when I was first learning how to watercolor letter, and then also when I just want to warm up in general, it's good to do drills because it helps you kind of get your brush control and remind your muscles, you know, what you're working on. So I'm just gonna let me grab some paint if I can open it. So this is the Ecoline watercolor paint, and you can definitely use copy paper to practice with. It's going to warp, but you're not going to use this to, you know, this is just practice. It's not, you don't need to use a watercolor expensive paper right off the bat if you're just learning how to do it. So you're going to, when you're using the liquid, I'm kind of weird about cross-contaminating multiple colors, so I always keep my water next to me, and I'll clean my brush a lot. So like I'll dip it in, and this is basically the same as same idea as if you were doing your modern calligraphy. So upstrokes are thin, downstrokes are thick, but what's different with watercolor is that if you don't like how thick it is, you can just paint it, do what you want to, draw it in, you can do whatever you want. So that makes it a little bit easier. I have fallen in love with watercolor. I don't know if you've noticed, I kind of have been doing more and more watercolor. I still love brush pens and hand lettering, but you know, I'm always exploring, obviously. So upstrokes are thin, downstrokes are going to be thicker. And if you're using, you could also use this to practice your hand lettering if you wanted to. It's kind of got multi-purposes. It doesn't have to just be watercolor. You can use brush pens or Crayola pens as well. If you aren't sure where you need to be, like where does the downstroke go and where does the upstroke go, then you can check out my faux calligraphy tutorial, because it will help you when you're learning. Knowing faux calligraphy, I've always thought, is kind of like the most important thing. So if I have a playlist that says if you're new to hand lettering, start here, and that is the faux calligraphy video. It really helps if you know where your downstrokes go versus where the upstrokes go. So that's it. I'm just trying to like practice. It's been a while actually since I've done some lettering with my watercolor brush. I feel a little bit shaky. So it's totally normal. After you practice a while, it will start to come back to us. So drills are gonna get uploaded to my Patreon, and then I'll be uploading, I'm just gonna fine tune the abbreviated worksheets, and I think they're just about done. So I'll probably do that today or tomorrow. And then I have more drills, and this is just to help you learn pressure. So, because just like a brush pen, the harder you press down, the thicker your stroke's gonna be. So if you can practice doing a line all the way across, keeping it nice and upright, and notice how I move my arm, I'm not necessarily moving my wrist, because if you try to do a straight line by moving your wrist, it curves. But if you move your whole arm as you go, you get a pretty good consistent line. So I have a couple of different drills. This one is just to alternate pressure, going down and then up. Probably hard to tell with purple. Let's grab some different paint. These are beautiful paints. I just purchased these, and I'm kind of excited to test them out even more. Okay, so, oops, that was downstroke. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I ran out of water. Coming back, down, up. Excuse me. And then lastly, I just have like painting circles. Practicing painting circles just helps to kind of open it up a bit, and then you can practice your pressure going around, because you will do like loops when you are doing some of your letters. So we've got some drills. Let me just move these off to the side. And then I've got the alphabet. And these were all hand painted, and I did a series on Instagram a while ago, and I decided to make worksheets out of that series because I liked how they turned out so well. So when you're doing your watercolor, you can still practice on directly onto the page, but let's say you've done it a while and you want to practice some of the blends. I'm using a light box here. It's like actually a flat, it's not a box, it's like a flat mat. There we go. Okay, so that's my light box. I'm gonna take and put that down, and I'm not gonna worry too much about like placement. I'm just trying to like make sure I got letters on there, and it might be really hard for you to see, but I'm gonna just show you what I mean about some of the blends. So I'm gonna just grab a couple, let's get some colors up here going. All right, so I can kind of see it. I hope you guys can kind of get the idea, but my goal is just to show you how to blend it. So I'm using, this is what I'm using. I'm using the Canson Watercolor 300 gram cold press paper. And this is affordable watercolor paper. I wouldn't be practicing probably on my arches. But, oops, I can hear the UPS man. So you need to have enough liquid in order to drop in color. And a lot of times when I'm just doing my blends, I start with the main color that I'm using. then I will just drop in color where I want it. And if it's too thick, get your brush wet, come in, spread it around, you move it with your with your brush, and that's it. Like I'm constantly rinsing my brush, especially if I'm using any of the eco lines. So I'm gonna start, let's say I have my eco line paints, whatever color I start with, I will rinse in between. And then I usually will dab it because of its liquid paint. And then I'll go in and I'll get the straight color. If you have a color that you really like that's a pan, you can drop that in too. It doesn't have to be. I really think the liquid watercolor paints are really great for learning how to do lettering. It makes it very easy to like dip your paintbrush in, get a good amount of ink or paint, and then you can, it's kind of hard to see that blue, but it actually looks really pretty. And with watercolor, there's so many different things you can do. You can just move your paint and do all sorts of cool stuff. So I'm gonna go through and do the alphabet so you guys can see how I do each one. And if you haven't had a chance to like or subscribe, please do so. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell. I totally forget to tell you guys that every single time. And I'm so bummed because I was trying to figure out YouTube analytics, and apparently I only have like 14% of you or something like that are actually notified when I post. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's my fault because I don't remind you. So I'm reminding you, don't forget to hit the notifications bell. Okay, so let's go through, and I'm gonna do each of these letters, and that's what it looks like on watercolor paper, but let's go through and I'll do them on my sheet here, because I think that's how most of you are going to learn how to do that. So let's, all right, so I'm just gonna go through and I'll fast forward all this, and then you can just watch me do the letters, and then we'll go from there. When I'm doing my downstrokes, notice how, like, if it's a thick downstroke, I will move my brush from this position off to the side so I can get an even broader stroke. And then if it's a thin stroke, I will come back up and then go across. It's a lot easier, so you can move your brush around depending on how you're doing it. And if it's a loop, you're starting out that way. And if you get to the top and you need to switch, you know, you can do that. You don't have to keep it. Oops. I think it just depends. Like sometimes if I know I'm gonna do a round turn like this, I start at the top and I'll just press down from there and then lift back up. And that's what those drills will help you to learn. When I get to like loopy parts, I tend to come all the way down and I'll stop. Then I come back from the other side and come back around. That works for me. It might not work for you. And you can use these, I think I said this, but you can use these for brush pens, your Crayolas. It's really like you can multi-purpose options here. And if you don't like it, just draw in the way that you want it to look. It doesn't have to be done in one stroke. It can be many strokes. The bigger the brush, the more paint and water it can hold, and you can do bigger letters. So if you're having a hard time, you know, you can try doing a smaller brush or a bigger brush, just see which ones work best for you. And this, I know these aren't like traditional letters, but I just like, this is my style. So if you're looking for something super traditional, you probably don't want to get this one. But this is just, I like to do my letters like this. These are fun paints though. I don't know if they are light fast, but they're fun to use. I like the liquid. You could also do food coloring. If you have food coloring, you don't want to go spend money on paint. Mix yourself some food coloring. Just make sure that you do it on a protective surface so you don't color everything. Okay, so when we're done with these, we are gonna do some subscriber shout outs. Okay, so we've got all of our letters. If you purchase the Etsy, you will also get numbers, and I will also be putting those on my Patreon as well. And let's grab a couple of names and do our subscriber shout outs. So let me grab my box. Grab 2 names to start with. All right, the first name, oops, I grabbed 3, sorry, whoever that was. Okay, let's see what we got here. First name I have is Mary Vic. So we're gonna do Mary Vic. I have found that I can't do the entire name if I'm going to add stuff to blend with. So while it's wet, you need to add your color. Let's see, I want to get like a more vibrant purpley color. Let's put this over here. Let's add more paint. Okay, so there we go. That's gonna dry super pretty. Okay. So, Mary Vic. And you can go slow when you're doing some of these. And I'm gonna come up and do my R. So I'm gonna make sure I have enough water on my paint. Coming up. And you can touch up anything you want to. And then coming down. Grab some of that pretty purple, drop it in. Maybe switch to light blue. And see, if you put the darker color and push it in, it'll start to move. And I'm gonna go back to and if I've lettered your name today, please leave a comment below. I love knowing if you actually saw it. And I did a poll a few days ago, and I'd asked you guys what you preferred, if you wanted to see some of the names in stories or if you wanted to see some of the names only at the end of videos, and most of you said to do it at the end of the videos, and I think that's awesome, so I'm gonna continue to do that. But I think I might also do some in my stories because I feel like there's quite a few here, and I want to make sure that you guys get your names lettered. So check my stories too, because I might start popping some over there. And I think that's a really cool feature that YouTube has. Can open it. Rose. And I think let's do one more. See if I could fit one more if it's not a super long one. Let's see. Raquel. All right, Mary Vic, Rose, and Raquel. Thanks, you guys. Hope you love it, and I appreciate you guys. And thank you, Patreons. Hope you guys are gonna like the worksheets, and I will link to everything below. Have a good one.